What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Free to Listen podcast, where we will be talking only about the PlayStation 4 and nothing else. Um, I am John, joined as always by the wonderful Wilson
What's up?
and the dashing Daniel. I couldn't think of
Really?
another D word.
Dashing?
I couldn't
There's
think of
nothing-
another one.
There's nothing dashing about Daniel.
Well, whatever.
The only thing
God.
dashing about Daniel is how fast he'll dash onto a wiener.
Oh.
Oh, God. So, PS4.
Anyway. Well, what have you guys been up to this week? What have you been up to, Dan?
I actually picked up the second season of Game of Thrones that just came out on DVD. So I just actually today sat down and started watching that. I don't get HBO, so I always wait for the DVDs to be released.
I've actually never seen any of those shows. Any of them.
You are missing out, sir. It's probably next to Walking Dead. It's my favorite series running right now.
It's pretty dope!
And other than that, just really been playing some Wasteland, playing some Terra. It's fun stuff, man. Nothing
Are
really.
you really delving into Terra now?
Yeah, I've been really getting into it. I really like the combat. Really like how it's slightly, just different enough from a traditional MMO that it keeps you engrossed. It kind of detracts the fact from it's a grind fest.
That's good.
But, most MMOs are, in some form or another, a grind fest. At least this one makes you actively click buttons instead of hitting, your number hotbar.
Well, that goes without saying. Most, like you said, every MMO has some sort of grind to it.
But, yeah, I had a lot of work this week. I only had one day off. Had to work this morning, so... And then since it's Saturday, it is what it is. I'll have a lot more time to play games this week, but... Didn't get too much done like I wanted to this week.
Sounds interesting.
How about you there, Wilson?
Not too much. Of course, I've been playing The Binding of Isaac like regular. It's like...
Swear to God. Intervention. John, we need to do something. We need to call the intervention group
Dude,
and put the man in a home.
There's nothing you can do.
And then I picked up Deus Ex Human Revolution and FTL today. I finally got to play Deus Ex. It's really enjoyable, actually. I'm really slowly turned off by first-person shooters lately, but it's a change of pace compared to the regular first-person shooters that you get these days.
You could play that game not as a shooter at all.
Yeah. I gotta get used to playing a legit first-person shooter with a keyboard and mouse compared to how I used to play strictly on consoles. But I'm enjoying it so far. And then FTL, I've been interested in that game, and I got a really good deal on them, so I picked them up. And that's really about it, except for The Binding of Isaac.
And Left 4 Dead 2, man.
Oh yeah. Me and you and our good pal Fat Baby have been delving into Left 4 Dead 2 the past several nights. I think we played maybe 6 or 7 hours the last couple nights.
Yeah, we went through just about all the campaigns.
It's such a quality title, though. Oh, and then I
yeah.
started playing Final Fantasy 3 on the Super Nintendo again because it's a fantastic RPG, and I've been itching for a good JRPG.
3 was, as in 6, also known as 6, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
5.
dude, that's my number 2 favorite. In the
It might be
franchise.
5. I'm not sure.
I think it's 6.
No, I think 4 is 6 and 3 is 5.
I just hate numbers so much.
I know. That one with the stuff.
Which one is it? What is...
The one where you start off where you're the girl with the slave crown on.
Okay.
And you have the mechs to start off with, and you wake up in the hotel, and I'm pretty sure the old guy touched you all over.
I'm pretty sure that's 6, but anyway. That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's fantastic, with Tara and that other guy. Clancy. But anyway, what have you been playing, John Boy?
Mostly Left 4 Dead has been most of my time. Not too much else. I finally tried to play TF2. I have an old laptop with Ubuntu installed. So I tried to play TF2, the Linux version, and it wasn't compatible with the laptop just has a really crappy.
Everything.
Yeah. So like just I don't know if it was the drivers that it just didn't work. But
But
anyway, I logged into TF2 today and I got the Tux Penguin anyway, so it's
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
But there's actually people farming those where they'll just create a couple different Steam accounts, and they'll just get a bunch of them, and I guess they're trading them for other stuff. So if you want to create another account and give me one of those Tux Penguins, I'll be more than happy to lend you Dan for a weekend or something.
The Penguin's actually not. I mean, I know you'll probably just like trade it for like 20 games or like that weird crap you do. But like as far as like a TF2 item, it's actually kind of stupid. Like it's like an accessory, but like the Penguin like just sits on like the belt, but on the back of the
Oh,
character. It's like
so
really kind
so
of dumb.
cards your poop shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to create another Steam account and trade me that.
Maybe.
But
But
yeah.
yeah, that's about it for me. Brutal Legend comes out, unlocks on Tuesday, so that's what I'm really waiting for.
I still have like $15 on my Steam wallet. I'm thinking about picking it up, even though I've played it through it several times already.
I'm really, really looking forward to it.
I'm
That's-
personally
that's-
thinking about giving Age of Conan a try since it just unlocked today on Steam.
Yeah, and for the low amount of space on your hard drive of 20 gigs.
Yeah, I
What?
know. I can't
It's
believe that.
20 gigs.
That it was a shocker. I mean, I'll probably try it and then end up deleting it, but the temptation is there.
I thought about downloading it, and then I saw it was 20 gigs, and I just said no.
Not worth it.
No, because I can't really get into MMOs like I used to. Like, even like Guild Wars 2, we got into that and we played the hell of it out of it for a couple weeks, and then we all just kind of fell out of it. And I still play it occasionally.
You're only saying that until Elder Scrolls come out, and then you're going to be like PP go doing doing doing.
For
I
a
don't
month,
even-
and
I
then
don't.
it'll
I don't
be
even know if I'm
normal
gonna
again.
get it.
Oh, that's a bold-faced lie.
I don't know if I'll
You
get it.
know.
The only MMO I might get is Final Fantasy 14 when that ever comes out with the rebirth.
Yeah, we're still waiting on the rebirth because that original one was abysmal.
Yeah, it was. But let's continue on. I mean, we got a lot to talk about with all the news that happened this week. Which by all the news I mean PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4.
Well, that was a great podcast, guys.
See you guys next week. But anyway, like we were saying, Wednesday they had the big keynote where everybody's like, oh, they're going to announce the PlayStation 4, but nobody really confirmed it until that day, and everybody was right, it is the PlayStation 4. Now, what did you guys think about the keynote in general?
I definitely think that they did a lot better than they have done in years past. I mean, going back and looking at their presentations at the last two E3s, Wilson, you and I talked about it when it happened. I always take E3 off from work and I watch the whole conference, and we were always talking back and forth during them. We just couldn't wrap our minds around the dumb things that Sony did during their keynote conferences in the last two biggest events in the video game video game culture. But this time it seems that they finally learned how to put on a good press conference. It seems they learned their mistakes in the PR department and came out swinging this time. So I thought the conference was good. They structured it well. The only thing I think they could have improved on personally was less of the move bullshit. That 15 minutes was even way still too much. There shouldn't have been any discussion about move whatsoever in that conference.
I disagree with you on that one, 100%.
Samesies.
I mean, what they showed with Move, it wasn't a lot. I mean, it was a lot to discuss Move with a new console coming out.
Well, you're talking about a specific, like the media molecule stuff
Exactly.
is really the
But
only.
here's the problem. If you actually look back at some of the prolific streams that were going on for it, meaning like game trailers, IGN, and you look at the amount of viewers that the stream had, interest in the stream dropped off significantly in that span where Move was. I'm not talking about the fact that, you should talk about Move and you should put something in there, but from a PR standpoint, talking about Move when you're discussing the big issues about the new console wasn't a good idea. That's what I feel.
I still disagree.
Yeah, so do I.
We'll
But,
get to that point in the.
Yeah, we're pretty
'Cause
much
we're
going
gonna
to
go
cover
over the whole-
we're going to cover the keynote from beginning to end. Essentially, everything they've discussed, we're going to discuss here today. And I know that the gaming journalism scene right now is probably overflooded with this kind of coverage for this thing, but let's be honest here, it's a huge event for the gaming industry. It's very rare that a company like Sony will come and announce something like a new console that isn't at a major event like E3 or GDC. They usually wait for those times, but instead of having their own press conference on a random Wednesday in February, that's a huge change compared to what the norm is.
And there's nothing else to talk about.
Yeah, pretty much.
No one announced anything this week. It was so dead.
Wait, I have one thing to announce. Ziff Davis, who owns IGN, they're shutting down like UGO, OneUp, and some other GameSpy, which hosts a lot of servers for Dan's favorite game, DayZ. They're shutting down those three companies. That's everything else that happened in the media this week.
That's sad.
I'm not surprised that they're shutting down, though, because DayZ is going to be going with Steam to host its servers, and they're one of the biggest customers for them.
Yeah.
So once they get away from that and go to Steam Architect, they're going to lose a ton of business.
And let's be honest here, GameSpy servers, they're not that good. At all.
And the only piece of news that was unrelated to the actual keynote, but still related to the console, was, big surprise, Witcher 3 is confirmed for PS4.
You mean Witcher 4?
Witcher 3.
Witcher
Aren't they
3.
on 4 now?
No, they're on 3. Wild Hunt is the subtitle.
Whatever.
But it's confirmed for the PS4. Big shocker, like everybody didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, anything that's really been announced in the last couple weeks, it's most likely going to come out on the PS4 or the next gen consoles, really. But anyway, let's continue.
Well, the beginning of the keynote, I was expecting them to come out with, the system specs, and here's what it looks like, and they didn't. The only system spec that they announced that really stuck with me was the 8 gigs of DDR5 memory.
Yeah, which is huge, really, compared
which
to
is pretty
what
cool.
The average console has now. I mean, the PlayStation 3 had 256 megabytes of DDR2 RAM. The Xbox has 512 of DDR2 RAM. And I think the Wii U has 2 or 4 gigs of DDR3.
I mean, that's because consoles don't need the amount of memory that a PC does to get the same.
Well, no, there's less
result.
processing in the background.
Yeah, there's less stuff going on. So the fact that it's 8 gigs of DDR5 memory is pretty. I mean, later on in the console's life cycle, I know it didn't even come out yet, but we're going to see potentially some pretty cool stuff.
Now, one of the things I liked, and I think you guys will agree with me, is they came out of and saying, we went to the developers and they said, what do you want this console to be able to do, and how would you like to work with this console? Now, let's be honest here. The PlayStation 3, the architecture of the system itself, really hurt their system because of third-party developers. It was an issue for them.
Yeah. You have people like Gabe Newell coming out and flat out saying, this is, too stupid to program for.
Yeah, and then 2 years later, Portal 2 comes out on it.
Yeah.
Which, I understand, like I said, but at that point, in that 2 years, people figured out it's still hard to program for, but it's not as hard as they thought it would be.
Once you figure that out, but anyway, remember the orange box came out on the PS3 and it sucked. It was just a mess.
Oh yeah, and I got it for Team Fortress 2, but yeah, it was a mess. It was riddled with bugs, just like a lot of games were. Really, the PS3, the launch was an absolute failure in my opinion. So I have a strong feeling PS4 is going to do really strongly in the console market once it hits, and it's going to hit this holiday season, which is ridiculous.
Well, if memory serves me right, they touched on this earlier on in the keynote too, but just the kind of focus on the PlayStation Network's going to take on social networking.
Yeah, the sharing on it, you could stream right to Facebook. I believe they said YouTube at one point you can stream directly to, which we're starting to see that now in consoles with Black Ops 2. You can stream from your console right to YouTube, which is kind of cool in my opinion. So we're probably going to see a huge flux of Let's Players, even more than there is now. But it is something interesting, and I like where they're going with that, as sharing. And one of the coolest thing I thought was say me and you were playing the same game, John, but it's not a multiplayer game, and I'm having a problem beating a certain section and you already beat it. You could actually hop into my game and pretty much play my game through my console, which I thought was really interesting.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only that. There's like sort of like how the Wii U you could play like Mario, and the one person with the gamepad could place blocks for the actual player to jump across to help them get across gaps and whatnot. It's sort of something similar like that where they can drop in like health potions or money and other things that they kind of showed, which is another cool thing in my opinion. So it's adding to the multiplayer aspect of single player games. So it could be something interesting down the line. At the same time, it could be something that nobody's really going to go into. And awkward silence.
I mean, I I don't know. I think the interesting thing about the sharing is like some of the backlash it's seen around the interweb net. I mean, it seems like the instant reaction that a lot of people saw was like, oh look, I don't like want to have to use like Facebook to like play on the PlayStation, and like they clearly said like it could incorporate stuff from existing social networks, but
It's
I
not
mean,
going to be mandatory.
yeah, and even then, it's not going to be mandatory to participate in any of it. You don't have
Not
to
only that,
stream your stuff.
we don't even know if it's going to be in part of the free service or if they bring over like PlayStation Plus, if it's going to be part of that service. And one thing to also touch on is the system doesn't have to be online for you to play games. So even if it was mandatory, just disconnect it from the internet, and you can easily bypass it.
Right. I don't know. I don't understand the upset. I mean, it's clearly something that if you don't want to participate, you could just not do it at all.
And to be honest, it's just, in my opinion, a minor aspect of the console. I mean, they pretty much came in and said we want this to be about gaming, but there's going to be this other aspect completely where you can have the sharing. But like I said, in my opinion, I think they're really focusing on the games this time around.
Yeah, I mean, we could get into the games now if you want to. I mean, there wasn't really much of the specs that were announced yet.
Besides the controller, yeah, I mean they really didn't delve into the actual specs of the console. They didn't even show what the console looks like, and a rep from Sony flat out said we don't know what it's going to look like yet. So,
yeah.
But as for the controller, it's the only really big difference is they changed the triggers. The thumbsticks have an indent in them, opposed to having the rounded top, which would be better. And then the touchpad and the share button. That's really it. And they didn't really delve into how the touchpad is actually going to work.
Yeah, we'll have to wait for more.
I think
to see more
E3.
games to see how the.
But yeah, we might as well just go into the games. I mean, that's really what the whole focus of the thing was, is really showing off games. I mean,
surprisingly,
they spent maybe 25-30 minutes on the actual console, and then they went right into games from a bunch of different developers.
Knack was the first, right?
Yeah, with I forget the guy's name, but he created Marble Madness, so the old arcade game. And he had some other games that he worked on. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Crash Bandicoot?
I think you're right. But the game looked alright. I mean, it's not my type of game really. But it looked pretty good, and the connectivity between the PS Vita is really neat, to be honest.
I mean, I'll probably never buy a PS Vita.
Oh God. No. The only reason I bought a PSP is because there were certain games I wanted to play, and let's be honest, I jailbroke that thing the day I bought it. But yeah, Knack was pretty cool. Really, like I said, the connectivity with the PS Vita essentially makes it like a Wii U gamepad for the PS4.
Yeah.
Really.
What are your Knack could be cool. I think, I don't know, the way that the little dude like grew and like
yeah, it was a cool aspect for a game, but like it's not my forte even of games really. I've really fallen out of that type of game, like your Crash Bandicoots and
it's like action adventure titles.
Yeah, like I played a little bit of Skylanders Giants. It's a fun game, but it's not something I would be able to sit there and really get into. How do you what's your feelings on Knack there, Dan? You've been awfully quiet.
Well, I didn't want to ruin the good mojo that you guys had going. You were firing back and forth, and I didn't want to interrupt. But I like Knack. I think it's an interesting new IP. We don't get many new IPs these days, and to me, it looked like an actual live Pixar movie, and I thought it was pretty neat. We need more lighthearted platformer titles like that, and it's nice to see that they're actually giving kind of an old school treatment to one of the new launch titles for the PlayStation 4.
Well, yeah, it sort of reminded me of like your Ratchet and Clank or your what's the other one? With the cat
Jack
guy.
and Daxter.
Jak and Daxter.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's on.
I agree with you, Dan. Like that, it is kind of like an old school throwback.
It seems to me like they're trying to build a new IP franchise on that, and we all know Kratos is the face of Sony these days, but they could throw a curveball every now and again like they did, and I, for one, think Knack looked really good.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll get it personally, but it looked decent. It looked like it'll be a strong launch title for them.
Yeah, it looks like it will. I don't think it's going to sell systems, but like you said, it'll be at least a strong launch title if it turns out the way it's looking. Where it'll be a solid game.
Let's face facts. The only type of games that sell systems are strong, established first-party franchises. We all know that that's the truth. I mean, maybe we'll see something different with Watch Dogs because I just think that that's such an amazing concept for a title that might push people to buy a PS4. But you can't tell me that if they put God of War 5 on PS4 as a launch title that people wouldn't be running out there to buy it. Just like if Nintendo put a new Zelda as the Wii U launch title, people wouldn't have gone out there and bought the Wii U at launch. That's exactly what first-party titles are great for, moving systems.
Exactly. And if they put Zelda on as a launch title for the Wii U, I might not be the only one out of 58 people that have one. And then next was from Guerrilla Games is a new Killzone, which is come to expect from Sony every time they launch a console since they've made Killzone. There's been a launch title, Killzone. It's Killzone and Shadowfall, and me and John, we were really watching the keynote at the same time, talking to each other, and the first thing out of both of our mouths was this pre-rendered from the beginning.
Yeah.
And the game looks fantastic graphically, and it's not your average Killzone. Normal Killzones are pretty dull and dark with their color palette, and this was vibrant, a lot of flashy colors, a lot of light, and then it turned into the actual gameplay, so which it means it wasn't pre-rendered, it was being rendered as it was played, and it looked fantastic. And to be honest, I wasn't a big fan of the Killzone series at all. The multiplayer in 3 was kind of fun, but it wasn't something sustaining like your Call of Duties or your Battlefields. But it looked fantastic.
Yeah, I think it looks, visually at least, it looks great.
Oh, there was tons of moving pieces on the screen, a lot different from your regular first-person shooter. I mean, when you play like Call of Duty and you're playing their campaign, there might be jets flying across and all this other shit going on, but it's not nowhere near the amount of what was going on in the Killzone while it was being rendered at that time. It was, like I said, it wasn't pre-rendered. The game looks fantastic visually, but like I said, I'm not a big Killzone fan. I've actually never fully played through a Killzone title. I always lose interest like halfway through.
I've never played any of them, so I mean, I'll probably pass on it, but just Killzone seems to me to be like a franchise for Sony that they kind of go like really with like for an epic feeling. So it'll be cool for it to set the stage for like the next God of War game.
Oh, definitely.
Because like they'll have to like God of War always has to be like the most epic thing ever.
Well, let's be honest. Have you played a God of War that wasn't amazing?
No.
In no way am I a God of War fanboy, but those games, they're fantastic. Every single one. And then after that was Sucker Punch came out with the infamous Second Son, which has nothing to do with Cole McGrath's storyline, which I kind of enjoy. It's a change of pace. And then,
I mean it was just like a cinematic trailer.
It was, but
really
but
weird.
It was kind of futuristic in a very government orientated society where the government had their fist down and they were controlling everything, and they actually went into where other people had powers, so it wasn't just Cole McGrath.
It
And
it it seems like they were really trying to hammer home a point rather than show the gameplay. Like they were trying to entice people with the idea of what the game could be based on the circumstances that are going on in the real world right now. That's what
yeah,
it seemed to me. But it still seemed like a lame attempt. Honestly, I thought the infamous quote unquote trailer and squares were the weakest of all of the presentations that were
oh,
shown.
we'll get to Square. We
Yeah,
will
but
get to
I'll
Square.
agree. I think the infamous one was a bit of a letdown. It was like such that guy had such a like huge build up, and then the trailer happened, and it was like like that was it. Like that's what you
Well,
were.
you seem to have gotten accustomed, John Boy, to the large, build-ups by these kind of developers, and then the letdown as you were bitching about Blizzard, which we'll get to later.
It's really sort of like say you're at a bar drinking and you're talking to this girl and you're drinking heavily, you end up going home and your stuff doesn't work.
Ha!
That's the equivalent of how I can, because I agree with you. It's could be a good aspect on the game. We don't know anything now because it was just a short, maybe minute and a half, 2 minute trailer.
Yeah, there was no. I mean, I don't care that they didn't have a lot to show, but like they didn't really announce anything about it. Like they
No,
didn't say anything. I thought they were gonna like they showed like that artwork of all the different dudes with different superpowers. I thought they were gonna be like, oh, like this is gonna be like a multiplayer game. Like we just heard all about like the social features and like how they're focusing on like playing with your buddies, and then they show this. I was like, oh man, like is this gonna be like an infamous like MMO kind of thing
or even
or
if it was
something?
like an Infamous meets Marvel Ultimate Alliance, really.
Yeah, something like that. And then like where you like pick a character and then you could play with your buddy. But like they didn't say any like there was nothing.
No, no. And they started touching on the whole social features in Infamous 2 where you can create your own challenges and everything, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it was really really watered down compared to what I think they're going to do with this. We won't know that much more until they actually show something about the game. I don't even think this is going to be an actual launch title, to be honest. I think it's going to be a launch window game, but not an actual launch title. Like Killzone looks like it's going to be most definitely a launch title. Same thing with Knack.
Yeah.
As for Infamous Second Son, no way possible in my opinion that will be a launch title. It'll be out within like maybe 3 to 4 months, but we're not going to see it in 2013. No way.
Yeah, if they don't have anything playable to show.
Yeah. And then next, Jonathan Blow came out, which if you don't know who he is, he's the developer that made Braid, he's really the godfather of indie gaming, and I'm a huge indie game fan at this point in my lifetime. That's what I really focus around. And he came out with this game called The Witness. And John, I know you're a big fan of Braid, and Jonathan Blow as well. If you haven't seen Indie Game the movie, check it out. It really goes into a bunch of indie developers like Team Meat and Jonathan Blow, and the guy that made Fez. It's a really interesting movie, but that's another story. But The Witness looked really good in my opinion. What did you guys think about it?
Well, I mean, I was a Myst fan back in the day. I liked.
Yeah, it sort of looks very Myst-like. He said there's 25 hours of gameplay, which is astounding in my opinion.
See, I mean, I can get behind the indie cause. I think it's great for the gaming industry, but this particular one, it doesn't appeal to me.
Braid didn't appeal to me at all either until I actually got my hands on it, and it
Same.
really surprised me. So I'm not having high hopes for this, but I think it will do well, and that it's a PS4 exclusive, which they came out and said like right after the show that it is only going to be on the PS4, is really good for not only Sony because Jonathan Blow has a big following, as well as could be good for him. Depends on how the PS4 actually does though.
Are you sure it's exclusive to
Yeah.
PS4?
It's been confirmed.
I thought it was coming out on PC too.
Well, console
Oh,
exclusivity. Generally, when people say exclusive, they don't talk about PCs in this day and age, really. I mean, look at Halo is exclusive to Xbox, but you could play them on the PC. They're actually supposedly coming to Steam. And then I know next, Dan, this is your favorite part of the keynote, except for Blizzard. It's Evolution Studios, who are ex-members of Criterion, who make like the Burnout series, came out with Drive Club.
I don't see how that's my favorite part of it. This was one of the more boring ones. While I recognize that a lot of gamers like those driving games, I have a distaste for them.
Sarcasm, motherfucker.
Well, your sarcasm is harder to detect than a friggin' herd of bantha running through Mos Eisley.
See, this is why nobody invites you to stuff. Anyway, Drive Club first-person driving game looked very fancy. Graphic looked amazing. Not a big driver fan though. I don't like driving games at all.
I do like, for racing type stuff, at least the asynchronous multiplayer. I liked it in the latest SSX game. I thought it was really cool. And I don't know, to have like the asynchronous and like real-time multiplayer is always, I don't know. This is a cool direction for multiplayer to go.
The farthest I go into racing games is really Mario Kart.
That's what we were saying. We were watching the stream. Like, is this going to be like a Gran Turismo, or is this going to be like a Burnout? Like, how serious is are the driving mechanics and the physics going to be? Like, if it's arcadey, then like I'm more interested. I'm more into driving games that are like arcadey, where you can do like crazy like drifts and stuff, and it's not like
rather than a driving simulator.
Yeah.
Like that special game to everybody's heart that begins with Gran and ends with Turismo that never comes out.
Yeah, I'm not. This is because I'm terrible at them.
Oh god, yeah, I'm horrible. It's like I pull off the starting line and I just explode. Now next, which is everybody's favorite part of the keynote, and was in my opinion, the winner of the keynote is Ubisoft with Watch Dogs.
Well, there can't be enough hype around Watch Dogs right now. It seems to be like the driving force.
Oh, definitely, and even I said it last year when they showed it off at E3 last year. I said, I bet you that's going to be a next-gen title. And I said it right to you, I think, Dan. And,
oh, yeah. When we saw it, we had originally thought that it was definitely going to be next-gen.
Yeah, and the game looks amazing, and in the demo you see, like, the main character kind of watching around, and the whole storyline is the cities, everybody's connected. It's looks like very government oriented as well. And the guy's just walking around, and he has this little cell phone like device, and he's scanning people, and he can get their background information, and he sees like this pro-life lobbyist, and he hacks his information and walks up to the ATM right next to him and just takes his money right out of the guy's bank account, which is really cool.
I thought the trailer was fantastic. I think every time they show like gameplay elements, it's cool. But I mean, I remember the same kind of hype building before the first Assassin's Creed game came out, and then that game came out, and it was kind of like, oh yeah, here's like the bells and whistles we showed off, but that's it. There's nothing. No. There's no depth. There's no anything. The game was like hyper repetitive, and that was it. So I mean, I don't know. Ubisoft to me has. I hope the game is awesome. Like it looks great, and if it's everything that they're alluding to it being, then I will buy it for sure. But
yeah,
I'm probably gonna wait for reviews on it.
I'm probably gonna pick it up right away. It all really depends though until we get a little bit more information. Like you said with Assassin's Creed, where they showed all the bells and whistles, and the first game was just repetitive, which it was. I think they've learned their lesson, because if you look at progressively through the Assassin's Creed, they do get a little better every time. One of the big things with Watch Dogs, though, is if that's a scripted event or a dynamic event. If it's a scripted event, that's fine. But if it's something dynamic that happens randomly throughout the world, is amazing in my opinion.
And that's what they kind of make you think.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's how they make it look.
And while we're watching it, you said it yourself. If that's how the whole game is, I mean, if it's just random dynamic events, I would still want to play that game.
Yeah. Because I mean, he saved that chick, and then he ran from the cops, and then he stopped that train, and if all of that was if it was scripted and you could either do it or not do it, that's kind of okay, I guess. If all that was dynamic, I think of I don't know, messing around in a Grand Theft Auto game.
Yeah.
And all that stuff is dynamically happening, but you can control all that stuff. That's impressive. That's gonna be really, really cool.
Yeah, I did definitely. It's along the same lines as like leveling up in Guild Wars 2, where there's tons of dynamic events. But with the scale of Guild Wars 2, you kind of know once you do like a certain amount of dynamic events, that's it for this area. Whereas if it's depending on how big the city is and how big the game is with Watch Dogs, it could be almost like an endless possibility of every dynamic event, really, where everyone plays out a different way, even if it's the same person. So if for example, we take that event with the girl and her ex-boyfriend and chasing them down, and you throw up the divider for the cop car to hit and all that jazz. Even if it's a different outcome, where you catch the guy but you escape the cops differently, or you don't catch the guy and he gets away, or
Right.
even if he kills the girl before you do anything, as long as there's a change of scenery every time that event happens, and it's still dynamic in some way, would be great. It'd be fantastic in my opinion, but it's yet to be seen.
Yeah, I'm waiting for more.
I
But
think
I mean, I want to hear like people getting to play like like you like getting to play like an hour with the game or something where they just get to like roam around, or like they don't. It's not something people get their hands on it. And it's not like okay, play through this like mission or something. It's just like okay, like here's the game. Do what you want for an hour.
yeah, I mean, I think we'll get a more hands-on look really when E3 comes around, especially with everything with the PS3, PS4 now. I
Yeah.
think there'll be a lot of information announced at E3, like a price point, where the one big rumor was 430 for the regular model, and 530 for the holy shit, this one's even a million times better model. But a couple of rumors now is 300 and 400 even, which that's even better. That'll be like the sweet spot really for consoles for the next generation. The Wii U was similarly priced, but let's be honest here, the Wii U isn't a next gen console. It's more like Gen point 5 compared to this current gen and the next gen. It's somewhere in the middle ground, just like the Wii was from the PS2 to the PS3 and the Xbox to the 360. I think all that will really be announced at E3. They have to really because they're
E3
pushing
is
for.
going to be the make or break for a lot of things.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they're pushing for this holiday 2014 release, and they need to be fast with announcing price points, the actual specs of the console. Everything needs to be done in a timely fashion compared to how a lot of times Sony works with their consoles, where they kind of give us little tips and hints to what's going on, but it's not really in a timely fashion where we'll hear one thing one month and it'll be like 6 months down the road we'll hear this another little interesting tidbit of information. They needed to be really upfront with the industry right now and let people know what the hell's going on with this console.
A lot of it's going to depend too on what Microsoft does.
Apparently, there's a rumor floating around that they're going to announce the next Xbox, which is apparently supposed to be titled Xbox Infinity, sometime in April.
Yeah, I heard April too.
I mean,
I'm not sure how true that is, but
I mean, John, you can attest to this. I've been pretty good with what the rumors I've been hearing and how the truth behind them, especially for the PS4 so far.
Yep.
So next, during the keynote was the Media Molecule. It was really a tech demo for the updated Move hardware and software, which I know Dan you don't like at all. But the tech demo was kind of interesting. What it looks like they'll be able to do with the Move controller.
What they showed, it seemed like it's just taking, it's just the next natural step with Little Big Planet's style of like user created content, so that there's just like and they even said that they're like they showed at one point in their little presentation how like they just dropped a bunch of items in like really fast, like you would with like Little Big Planet, but instead of like using the sticks and controller to create items and design stuff, you just use the move sticks and you kind of sculpt stuff.
Yeah, it's really like claymation essentially, really. Which everything they were creating in real time looked really responsive. It looked really good in that whole little um, demo they had at the end with the pretty much the concert with the claymation, where they had the two people using the Move controllers to dance, and then they brought out two more and they actually turned it into a band. Was really cool.
I think like the way Media Molecule does the Little Big Planet stuff It's really it's pretty deep what you can do with it, but it's also really simple to get started. So I think it's going to be I'm
E-
really interested in seeing what the final product is when they throw it all together.
Oh, definitely. And the easiest way to put it is easy to learn, difficult to master, which it really is. I spent a lot of time with the Little Big Planet one with the level creator, and I got really into it. And I made some pretty shitty levels at the beginning, but once you get used to how it works and getting used to the tools, you can really create some interesting things. And then one of the big things that was said during the media molecule, I can't fucking talk, media molecule demonstration was I forget the guy's name, but he pretty much came out and said polygons are the problem with gaming and graphics today, which was really funny because prior to that, what's the Heavy Rain developer? Quantum Dynamics,
Uh, Something like that.
Quantum Dreams, Quantum Dynamics. He said
Dream. That's
Quantum Dream, yeah. He came out in their little tech demo where they showed the old guy who looked like if Captain Kirk from Star Trek actually aged like a real human being.
it.
And he said polygons are the future. And the tech demo looked amazing. It looked like a real person, but there was nothing else fucking on the screen.
I mean, they're always that. Like, David Cage is that dude's name. He's always about the emotion, just getting emotion through in games. So I mean, like his studios are gonna be focused on that crap more so than like making a good have like gameplay engine to go along with it.
Well, yeah, if you look at their games, Heavy Rain and all the other games that they've created, it's more like a visual story than it is a game.
Yeah, they'll have like little quick time events or whatever, but
Yeah, I mean, I didn't play Heavy Rain all the way through, but that's essentially what it was. It was a virtual story with quick time events.
yeah, Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy was one of their earlier titles, and like it was the same. It was the same thing.
Yeah, I liked Indigo Prophecy a lot. I played through that on the PS2, but I couldn't get into Heavy Rain. I think I'm past that point, except for really the Walking Dead game from Telltale, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
The next on the agenda here is Capcom, where they came out with their new tech demo for Panta Ray, where it was we couldn't stop laughing, to be honest. That guy that came out, who was essentially the creator of Street Fighter.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing with Capcom's. I mean, like they just lost so much.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like I don't really care about what they're doing. They fucked up Resident Evil. I I mean, I don't really care. I suck at fighting games, so I don't really care what they're doing with fighting games.
Yeah, I
Well,
agree with
deep
you.
down looks good though. I mean, it
What
looked interesting.
the it was it's all a tech demo for their new engine, which is called Panta Ray, which just sounds like Panty Raid, which would be something acceptable for a Japanese company. Let's be honest here; they sell panties in vending machines. But everybody, from what I've heard, is really expecting that tech demo to turn into the sequel to Dragon's Dogma, which was a pretty quality game, and that's what everybody's expecting. But Capcom didn't impress me at all, at all.
Yeah, same here.
And then we had a Square came out after them, and that was the biggest letdown ever. The way they showed the tech demo from last E3 for it's like Angie's Story or something like that, which looks great. The graphics looks amazing, but we saw that last year.
Yeah. Are we really gonna sit here and go on about Square's families?
No, not at all.
Because it was awful.
And then
It was awful.
yeah, and then they had this big build up to this guy coming out, and he's like, "Oh, we're working on another Final Fantasy to be revealed at E3."
Yeah, it was basically
Big-
walked up and said, "We heard you like Final Fantasy, so we put Final Fantasy in your E3. See you at E3."
Yeah, they were a big letdown, and besides recently playing Deus Ex: Human Revolution, I could care less.
They just
About-
published that though. They didn't develop
Yeah,
it.
I think
they
it was
didn't
like,
develop
yeah,
it.
that's true, but it's still something to do with Square. And then after that, really, we have Blizzard, who they've been trying to put Diablo 3 on a console for.
Yeah, but here's the thing about that. I don't care that it was Diablo 3. Blizzard throwing their lot in with a console developer was huge because everybody seems to forget that if they can get a foothold in the console race and firmly establish themselves with decent sales on the platform, then their next big project could be multi-platform, and that would be huge.
Who the hell's gonna fucking buy Diablo 3? Who's gonna buy that?
I actually had a lot of people this week where I work that were talking about the fact that they would buy Diablo 3 on PS3 or PS4.
Would you guys?
I might.
Why?
It depends on if enough people that I know are playing it and don't have the PC to play it.
Not only that, it could be essentially a good game for a game night because there's 4-player couch co-op. That's about it. Like Dan said, it's that if they can get their foothold in the console market right now.
It's the gateway for Titan is the
Exactly.
way I'm looking at it. Because if they get a good foothold and can establish dominance again on consoles, then they've got console and PC and can make Titan cross-platform and make an experience just like Bungie's trying to do with Destiny. So it would give two great, huge multiplayer, online, massively huge universe games. You don't see a lot of them on console, and I want to start seeing more of them. So, you know what? If this gets Blizzard in the door, more power to them. Besides, my balls dropped when they walked out on stage. That was just like a mind blow.
Mine wasn't. It was confirmed last year that they were putting Diablo 3 on a console. It was just a matter of time. So I was surprised to see him, but I'm not surprised at all that Diablo 3 is actually going to hit a console. Now, like Dan said, I agree. It's their gateway into the console community right now because they haven't been on a console since the PS1 with Diablo 1.
And before that, Lost Vikings on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Here's my fucking beef with it, though. Number one, Diablo 3 was a fucking letdown. Number two, I don't give a fuck about Blizzard MMOs. Number three, they've been delaying and avoiding talking about the changes that the player base wants to see to Diablo 3, saying, quote, the technology isn't available. And everyone inferred that they meant that, oh, the engine of the game, the way it was designed, just won't allow for this. But surprise, surprise, it means it won't work on a fucking console, which is why they're not doing the shit that people want to see. So for them, they could have just came out and said, oh, we're continuing with developing Diablo for consoles, and that's what we're focusing on, instead of saying, like, you're not gonna fucking get it because fuck you. You know, like, and fucking, I mean, I'm so sick of the MMO market. Like, I don't care what, like, Blizzard's Titan, I really, really don't care what it is. So I mean, yeah, that'll be good for them.
The problem though with that is, and I do respect your opinion, John, utmost more than a lot of people, but Blizzard makes money and many, many people are frothing fanboys for them. They'll do well.
Oh, I mean, I'm not wishing ill will upon Blizzard. Like, the Blizzard games make up a good portion of the enjoyment I've had over my life of playing fucking video games. Like, I from time to time still dabble in Diablo 3. I like check out the changes they make and whatnot. It's just they handled the situation very, very, very awkwardly, and it just really, the whole thing just rubbed me the wrong fucking way. Like, they could have just came out and said, we're working on this shit for console, and that's why the game is what it is, and that's why the changes you're seeing and the changes you're not seeing are what they are. I mean, I don't know why they had to be. I mean, I'm sure it had something to do with Activision and stakeholders and whatever, all that corporate bullshit. But they could have just came out and said it, and I think it would have saved people time from being like, oh, like, well, maybe this will one day get there, instead of like, oh, like, we got you, you know, like, you're never gonna see that shit now because it's never gonna work on the fucking PlayStation, and that's the direction we're taking the fucking game, and we have been since before it fucking came out. I mean, you think about Diablo 3 now, and yeah, that game was made for fucking console play. Are you serious? The limited skill bar and like the dumbing down of the gameplay and like how you could respec constantly. Like, it was made with a little bit more of a casual mindset, I feel like, and that screams console game.
Yeah, I agree. I see your point exactly.
So I mean, I don't like. I hope I'm not one of those people who like doesn't like a video game developer now and thinks they're the devil. But I don't know. Blizzard. The next thing that'll interest me from Blizzard will be Warcraft 4 RTS.
That's never gonna happen.
Yeah. So
And another big thing with Diablo 3, and a lot of people don't take this into consideration, but the bar was set so high with Diablo 2, is which I think another reason people put the game down as much as they do. But it's not what it should have been. I'll agree to that 100%. But if you take the bar away from what Diablo 2 was compared to Diablo 3 is not a bad game in my opinion.
oh, it's not. But it's also not worth dropping another $60 on
No, not at all.
to play on a console, which is, I mean,
Like I said, the only reason I would pick that up is for the couch co-op if I was going to have like a regular game night with friends. Like we can all sit in my house, play in the same room, and have some fun. I wouldn't pick it up just to pick it up.
yeah.
But that's about it. And to be honest, I don't want to talk about it anymore because everybody's getting all I don't even fucking know.
I mean, fucking Blizzard, man. I mean, it's cool that they're like
It's
blew my fucking balls off. I was not expecting fucking Chris Metzen to walk out, but as soon as fucking Diablo came out of his mouth, I was like, ah, well, are you serious? Like, you could have changed everything.
honestly, what did you expect out of them when they walked out on the screen? Did you really expect something like fucking World of Warcraft? Or
I
actually Titan?
honestly, I expected him to say, we're throwing in our lot with Sony. We're working on a new IP to push out on consoles.
Let's take a look at Blizzard's track record with IPs. They have 3. Diablo, WoW, and Warcraft. And sorry, 4 and StarCraft. But in the past 20 years there's been 2 StarCraft titles, and the only other one that they were going to come out with they fucking scrapped.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't know what, like, Blizzard's one of the most secretive, hushed companies.
I look at it this way, they're owned by Activision. Activision's going to keep them doing what makes them money.
Yeah.
World of Warcraft, and Diablo 3 right now. And StarCraft. Any new IP you know is going to be funneled directly through Activision at this point. And that's actually a good segue into our next part of the topic tonight. Is the last person to walk and stroll their way out onto the screen was Activision, with Bungie and Destiny.
What a big middle finger to Microsoft.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I thought that beyond anything, with everything that went on with the way Bungie split off and made their own company and then threw their lot in with Activision, this to me was the biggest PR stunt of the whole conference and what definitely cemented Sony's grade in my mind as like an A- for a great conference. Throwing a PR middle finger to Microsoft saying, look, here's your developers that made your flagship franchise. Guess what? Fuck you, we've got exclusive content.
Not only that, the fact that Bungie had their own little conference where they showed some concept art and a little brief video for Destiny.
Yeah, so they didn't need to do anything with Sony, but then they came out and showed new footage.
Yeah.
They showed the existing footage plus more footage at Sony's press conference. That is the hugest kick in the balls to Microsoft ever. Hugest. And I'm not going to pick up Destiny. I'm not going to get it. I'm not interested at all. But for them to come out and do that, I think it's hilarious.
See, I'm preserving judgment on it until I see more about what the game's actually about, how it's played, what they're going to do, because they're saying it's not an MMO FPS, but it looks an awful lot like an MMO FPS, and when you say that your game is going to have a 10-year lifespan, how do you do that unless it's an MMO?
The way they were talking about, like, the kind of drop-in, they talked more about at their own announcement, but the kind of drop-in, drop-out, like, dynamic questing, like, kind of like Guild Wars 2. I like that gameplay style. So I mean,
the way it sounded to me, it sounds like they're trying to do a quest and a grind system like Firefall, but with the world and dynamic architecture of PlanetSide 2.
Yeah, and
That to me is what it sounds like.
I agree with you 100%, but it's not for me. I mean, it might be a fantastic game. One of the big things that's going to be held against them is that they have a high standard with everything they've done with the Halo franchise.
Yeah.
This might be another thing where we see just like the Diablo 3 syndrome. The
Yeah.
bar is set so high, and no matter what they do, they can't meet the expectations.
I mean, that's kind of the problem too is like the genre and the art style and just the look and so what little feel we've had of the game so far. Like it screams fucking Halo. So I mean, they could have tried to do something different to kind of distance themselves from the inevitable comparisons to the Halo franchise, and like they took like I don't know a step and a half away from Halo and
Yeah.
so what we've seen so far at least. Like so, I mean that's kind of their own.
But if you look at the first-person game style right now, the way it is, everything's going to be compared to one of two titles. Either to something like Halo or something like Call of Duty. So they don't have a lot of room to work with in that thing unless they totally go off the grid.
I would have liked to see something not FPS from Bungie.
Yeah, I would too. But most companies will only go and they'll get that one type of game that they're good at, and they'll continue to make that type of game.
Well, I don't even think that they could have gotten the same support that they would have from a publisher like Activision if they didn't go with the FPS genre.
No.
Just the fact that
Because
it's Bungie
let's-
making a sci-fi FPS, it's gonna make a boatload of money.
Let's face facts now. Now Activision has Bungie's new FPS. They've got the Call of Duty franchise. They've got World of Warcraft and Blizzard. They've got three of the biggest cash cows in the video game industry.
Well, yeah, it's fucking Activision. They're fucking, in my opinion, the biggest company out there for the gaming industry right now, besides the big three. And the big three don't have their hand in a lot of gaming. They have their hand in the console market and what first-party titles they do have. Like, Nintendo doesn't have that many first-party titles anymore, to be honest.
Mario, Zelda, Metroid. Well, Metroid they've outsourced now, but I would still call it a first party.
Yeah, it's
Who did
still
Donkey Kong Country Returns?
I forget. I think Nintendo did that themselves, didn't they?
No, they outsource it.
Because Rare is.
I can't remember who.
Rare's straight up with Microsoft now.
Retro.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
it was Retro.
But they don't have an actual lot of first-party titles. They make a lot of their money from the console market and what little first-party titles they have. Same thing with Sony and Microsoft. It's Activision's your big game company right now. Them and I hate to fucking say it, EA. But that's because you got all the college broskies going out to pick up the same rehashed fucking game every time Madden comes out.
Madden football.
And that's just how it works anymore, man.
Yeah.
Like the Assassin's Creed does the same thing. Call of Duty and Battlefield do the same thing.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's at least with like certain games they change some stuff. Like yeah, Call of Duty they changed some stuff. Madden they changed very very little. I mean, even looking with FIFA, I think 13 on the Wii, it was actually FIFA 12 with just the names changed.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
But that's really about it, and that's really essentially everything we have to talk about tonight. It wasn't a busy week except for PlayStation 4.
I'm excited.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna pick it up. Once they announce a price point, that's when it's gonna be okay. I'm gonna pre-order it and pick it up the day it comes out, or I'm gonna get it within a month of it coming out.
I won't get it at launch, no matter what. I'll definitely wait a while. I mean, my PS3 is still going strong.
It all depends on the price point and the launch titles. Look at the Wii U. I like the system. There's just not enough titles out there for me. I mean, I actually played a game on it today.
What did you play?
I actually downloaded the Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate demo.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah. Played it for like 2 hours. It's a fun game. I have some money set on it from when they announced it like a year ago. But I'm gonna pick it up, but I don't think I'm gonna be spending as much time as I anticipated on it. But that is about it for us tonight. If you guys like what you saw, rate, comment, subscribe. If you don't like it, subscribe anyway. Give us more followers. That is it for us tonight. I'm Wilson, along with Dan.
Have a good night.
And our good buddy John Boy.
Toodles.
Later.